Welcome everyone to the last Arcane video here on YouTube. Congratulations, you made it! I have once again missed out on an opportunity to capitalize on a hype train that could potentially kickstart a smaller channel like mine, and this time the final destination was a show called Arcane. Now, on the bright side, it's not only myself that I need to feel bad for this time around. No, it's also you. You finished Arcane back in whenever, and since then you presumably watched every single review, all the reaction videos, breakdowns, rewatched the show itself a couple times, seen all the fan art and the fanfics, and now you're here. Still desperate for any new Arcane content to distract you from the fact that the second season is still miles away in production. And I honestly can't blame you. I mean, this show was such a sudden breath of fresh air that I genuinely feel bad for those who have not watched it simply because it's an animation based on a video game. Now, before we begin, I must warn you. You will not find any new unique or groundbreaking takes in this video. I am not here to hit you with some carefully thought out theories or speculations that could completely change the way you see some of these characters or the events that occur on this show. No, I am here because I am still sad and in desperate need for an outlet to preach my thoughts to any like-minded individual that is still not over this thing, so if you wanna watch me vent for a bit, then feel free to stay, I appreciate it. I will also be spoiling the entire thing, so if you haven't seen the show yet, then fuck you. Go watch it. Now, despite Tyler 1 making multiple appearances on this channel, I don't actually know anything about League, and I have every intention to keep it that way, apart from Arcane of course. I made a lot of poor decisions in my life, but you will never catch me playing League of Legends. A friend recommended this show to me, and initially from the single trailer that I saw, I couldn't really sense anything too special about it, but within the first 30 seconds of the opening episode, I just went, wow. They must have dubbed this thing in every language on the planet, huh? My expectations for this show were so high that I decided to watch the entire first episode dubbed in Finnish for shits and giggles, and I was surprised and a little disappointed that it wasn't complete dog shit. Like, I'm sure that most people who are not from the States or speak English as their first language would agree with me that watching shows dubbed in your own language will always feel a little bit cursed. Thankfully though, this first episode didn't have any crazy emotional scenes, so I wasn't missing out on anything. I was really just trying to figure out who these characters were and what they were about. I only knew that these two were champions, but like, are they blood related? Do they have some sort of superpowers, or what's up with the hair? Wait. This shit looks insane. When you first start watching Arcane, its unique art style is naturally the first thing that catches your attention, but as it goes on you start to notice all the small little details in the animation and cinematics that basically sells it as the most polished animated show you'll probably ever see. Like, for the first time in my life, I found myself zoning out on all these goddamn details where you can like see the reflection on a character's eyes, or every micro expression on their face, or just some random stuff like this that by the time I snapped out of it, I'd completely missed out on some important piece of dialogue or something. It's insane how much every single second of this show matters. Anyways, apart from the visuals and the sound design, I was quite intrigued as to what I was watching. This beginning part here where the main cast was about to pull off some sort of a heist instantly gave me flashbacks to 2014 when me and my buddies used to get out of map on MW3's Resistance. That is very much off topic and has nothing to do with the show. Moving on. Things however don't quite go as planned after Powder accidentally blows up a building and later gets separated from the group and quite literally fumbles the bag. Vi, being the supportive older sister, assures that it's okay, and that's where the real magic of this show begins to be more present. The next thing we know is that the city has been split into two different layers, the top side and the bottom. An interesting concept, but more so how it was presented. This random elevator trip suddenly cues this dope ass music, and the next thing you know, we're in a whole new world of cameos that I don't know. We get introduced to a handful of new characters, including Vander, who was basically the father figure for these kids and also the leader of this underground city. Also, kind of a daddy. There's a lot of attractive people in this show for some reason. What surprised me the most in this first episode was seeing just how normal the life in this League universe apparently was. I knew that there was a lot of lore, but watching people play the game, there's always some sort of confusing spells or tools being used, yet none of those things seem to have much of a presence in this show. At least, not yet. Just somewhat ordinary people living in a somewhat ordinary society, you know? Not all fantasy heavy like I thought it was going to be like. Ultimately, we have this scene with Powder and Vi on a rooftop being all cute and adorable, which was the moment where I just thought how cool it would be if they would actually make a game off of something like this. You know, like a different game. We get a short look at the mysterious main villain of the show, and that pretty much does it for the first episode. The next focused a little bit more what was happening on the top side, right at the other side of the door when the building blew up. Now, As you may tell, we're kinda rushing through this thing. That's because I'm lazy and these first 2 episodes were a bit on the slower side. Like if I had to say what was the most uninteresting part of the story for me personally, I would have to say these moments here in episode 2. But the thing is that they weren't. No, these were really well directed scenes with fascinating characters. I just have the patience of a 6-year-old child. We would follow the story of Chase Tallis, a young inventor who gets put on this hilariously over-the-top trial where 7 council members would decide his fate for experimenting with one of those blue crystals that Powder stole. He tries to kill himself, but not before Victor introduces himself with his sexy-ass accent and convinces him to prove everybody wrong. One of those council members was an attractive woman. That's about the gist of it. We would bounce back between the 2 sides, and every time I'd get more and more invested to these 2 without even realizing it. All the subtle little gestures of care and Vi's clear determination to sacrifice everything for Powder completely won me over. But this relationship was pretty much the only thing that I was genuinely invested in, apart from the visuals and the sound design of course. As for the rest, I just thought that it was cool. This is a serious new take from Riot to give their characters and universe more depth, and the fans of the game will likely really enjoy it. We'll probably see these 2 grow even closer and become some sort of heroes of these 2 cities, while I'll be the one trying to make any sense out of it. So let's just put this first act nicely to bed with this 3rd episode so we can have a smooth and satisfying time skip to the part where Vi and Powder are getting ready to beat up the bad guys. I think I need an adult. There's nothing in the Holy Bible that could have prepared me for the absolute devastating series of events that was the 3rd episode of Arcane. No fucking way. As soon as Vander almost died and we could get a sense of the emotions that these characters could showcase, I knew that I was in danger. This shit has to be illegal. There's this huge standoff on this bridge where Vi's literally going up against every bad motherfucker on the opposition while her own squad is struggling picking a lock or too busy beating a hole to a wall, or just doing the complete opposite of what they're supposed to do. You know, my guess was that this was likely some sort of a reference to the gameplay experience of League itself. Although while this is happening, Victor and Jace were over here trying to figure out how these blue crystals could be used to create magic and potentially change people's lives, and Powder was basically trying to do the same with a bit more inspiration. As these 2 were using specialized tools and years of research to calculate their odds, Powder just stuffed a bunch of them into a toy and basically made a zombies monkey bomb on steroids. You know, she may not always come up with the smartest decisions or understand what's best for everybody, but that's okay. You know, she's still young and learning. All she needs is a bit of guidance and maybe a small little victory to push her in the right direction. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? What a fucking disaster. There's not enough words in the English vocabulary stored up here that could articulate the emotions that I felt after this sequence. The moment Powder appeared behind that corner screaming "It worked," I could physically feel my stomach twist due to the tension of it all. I have never felt a slap carry that much weight in any piece of fiction ever.
Stay away! No! Why did you leave me? Because you're a jinx! Do you hear me? Milo was right.
Notice how Powder's immediate reaction to this was not, "Why did you hit me?" but "Why did you leave me?" implying that her getting slapped to the face by her sister didn't hurt as much as her being left behind. Thank you to whoever pointed that out. I hope her next birthday lands on a weekday. Vi walks off but then gets captured by Marcus, and Powder finds comfort in Silco, the main bad guy of the show, and we get this awesome shot of the glint in her eyes indicating towards the change in her character, which was the moment where I just felt fucking dumb, like completely humiliated, because I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. And that wraps up the first act in all of its glory. Now I really like how they made us wait 7 days for the next act. Like, as far as I'm concerned, we as a society should abolish the normalization of binge watching shows. It's just a great way to forget half of the good scenes that happen with no time to really process anything that you've just seen. I myself had a hard time accepting that I may just have to download the game if the show was going to keep this up. Happy Progress Day! The opening episode of the second act would kinda keep up the pace from the third episode to some extent. It also has a time skip which causes all these characters to have a glow up, apparently. Except for Victor, he's kinda dying over here and... Oh no, wait, he's even hotter than before. Not gonna lie, seeing all these characters with their perfect hair and jawlines and teeth and physiques initially made me really depressed because, well, look at me. I am a 22-year-old with a weird fucking hairline and a poor eyesight. I have imperfect teeth and the thoughts in my head are darker than the bags under my eyes. I'm in the worst physical shape I've ever been in my entire life. But it could still be worse. I could also be bisexual. Anyways, Chase has become this huge celebrity thanks to his major breakthrough with Hextech, and this sparked some questionable vibes between him and Mel, which I think was the moment where he was set to become the public enemy of the people. Like, Chase may be more disliked than Silco himself, which kinda surprised me because to me he just seemed like a kid who was put in this position where he didn't want to be in the first place, becoming a council member and whatnot.
All our investments.
Yeah, I for sure thought that these two were homosexual. Because we could practically hear the AO3 fanfics write themselves during some of these moments, it's not even funny. What would also become a regular pattern in the show would be these badass character reveals, and every single one of them was built up perfectly. However, the one that stood out the most by far was Jinx's. She went from being cute to fucking terrifying to like vulnerable, all the way to insane within the span of like a minute. And it all happens during the sick action sequence where she's spraying her machine gun all over the place while the soundtrack is going off the rails. It's amazing. Later, she's in her den where we can see that she doesn't exactly have the healthiest coping mechanism when it comes to dealing with the losses of Milo and Clagger and Violet, who by the way didn't abandon her, okay? She just wanted to cool off and compose herself for a bit before going back and presumably beat the ever-living shit out of her. Somehow that probably would have been a better outcome. But of course Jinx doesn't know that because she was taken in by Silco. Now, I've seen a lot of wholesome fan art and content based around Silco and Jinx. Hell, I've even seen Silco's voice actor acting out some of these fan-made pieces, and it's super cute. This shit, on the other hand, is not. This is weird. Like, there's no way some of y'all are watching these scenes and going, yup, such a cute father and daughter relationship they have. Ain't no way. Silco may have mad drip and a cool eye, in such a beautiful way with words to complement his magnificent voice that some could even consider attractive, but you cannot let that distract you from the fact that he's still a very manipulative and a dangerous person. Seeing what Powder had become completely broke my fucking heart. When you first see how badly she's affected by her trauma, all the visual effects and shit, it messes you up pretty good, but then you realize that she's not only a victim anymore. No, she's also a menace now, a cold-blooded killer, apparently. And don't even get me started on that goddamn boxing scene. Bro, are French people okay? Like, did the people at Fort Tichet just wake up one day and go, excusez-moi, what if we made a painting with a little twist where it moves like this and practically make every major animation studio look like a bunch of fucking amateurs? Poor baby goes on to cause a couple more casualties while selling the gemstone, almost killing Caitlyn in the process too, and this basically serves as a setup for the rest of the show. Chase becomes a counselor, like I said, Marcus is still an asshole, and Caitlyn begins her own independent investigation to find Jinx. Cool, cool, cool. But has anyone seen Violet?
Who the hell are you?
Jesus Christ, the way the impact of this reveal could be cut off by Netflix's autoplay still haunts me. Like, what the hell? You're telling me that this whole time she's been in prison getting regularly beat by guards while not knowing anything what happened with her sister? No, there's no way. She should be the craziest one of them all by far. That's insane. Also, kinda off topic, but seeing those muscles immediately just made me want to go to the gym and get lean as fuck. Is that weird? I know she's not even a real person, but something about those arms just...
Too risky.
I didn't do it, but for a moment I definitely thought about it. Episode 5, Everybody Wants to Be My Enemy, would be the episode that would elevate the show to a completely new level. There are so many things to go over in this episode, so without further ado, let's just jump straight into it.
You're hot, Cupcake. So what'll it be, man or woman? Oot kuuma, moru.
Juu, ei toimi, ei millään helvetilläkään.
Seksyytä jo, Cupcake.
What the fuck? Okay, so Caitlyn and Vi, the only source for any form of joy or happiness in the show, was one of the more unexpected things for me personally. For some reason, I didn't think the show would have any heavy focus towards romance, but as it turns out, I didn't know shit. So I did some additional research about these two, and it turns out that this thing between them has actually been going on for a while now. Like, you guys have been thirsting over these two for over half a decade now, and unfortunately, after a short, in-depth analysis and reviewing all the possible evidence, I've come to the conclusion that you guys might just be over-analyzing this whole thing. You see, Vi has a very flirty personality. No, she's just down bad. There's no heterosexual explanation for any of this shit. Some other highlights of this episode would be the parkour scene with Vi. I was really hoping that we would get some sort of a leap of faith type of moment here, but I guess the creators of the show decided to spare us from the embarrassment and make sure that we didn't fall even deeper in love with this fictional character. Another one would be the cameo appearance of Imagine Dragons and the fight scene that followed after. It was so fucking cool. I had no idea that Imagine Dragons were such a polarizing band apparently. Like, maybe they're not and most people think they're just okay. Whatever the case may be, there's no denying that Enemy as a track kinda slaps. But not as much as the intro version. But yeah, Sevika and Vi going at each other was quite something. One of the more underrated aspects of the show was how these fight scenes evolved over time. Like, here at the beginning, it's just a bunch of kids beating each other up with fists and planks, and here it's using hex tech to actually kill them as adults. Nice one, Jace. You don't deserve her.
I'll give her your regards.
Bro, Sevika was such a badass character too, and for what? Like, I for sure thought that she must have been a playable champion in the game, but apparently not. No, they just put her in this thing despite having such a wide range of characters to choose from. I swear, when I first saw this list, I actually want to throw up. The game must be unbalanced as hell. The final episode of the act would once again be the one to pull our heartstrings and get us all depressed and sad. Victor's condition keeps getting worse and we can see him contemplating death and how his legacy won't be remembered despite his great accomplishments with Hextech. Meanwhile, Caitlyn and Vi are having a date in the absolute lowest part of the Undercity where we can see the immense amount of guilt Vi's feeling for losing Powder. Caitlyn being the absolute perfection of a human being she is, apart from, well, you know, being British, trades her weapon in order to save her, slowly building that trust between them and getting us closer and closer to the... What the fuck was that? I'm only kidding, by the way. I love all my friends from the great country of Yhdistynyt kuningaskunta. After getting her ass beaten and arm broken, Sevika has an unfortunate confrontation with Jinx that ends up with her getting dangled up and fucked up. Jesus Christ, I genuinely don't know if I should feel bad for loving how crazy Jinx is, because there's absolutely nothing about her that should be romanticized in the slightest. She's a traumatized terrorist with mannerisms that of a little child. She's incredibly smart and pretty. You know, maybe she's just a little bit misunderstood. It's the unpredictable aspect of the show where you have no idea what's going to happen next. Not with Jinx, not with anybody. When Vi looks like she's about to throw hands with Silco, she knocks down an entire building, which gives the most chilling sequence of the whole goddamn show, with Jinx lighting up the flare Vi gave her when they were still kids. Holy fuck, thank God I was watching this thing on a Saturday afternoon, because otherwise I may have just passed away on the spot. Also, this shot of Vi bumping into some random pedestrian was the moment where I officially solidified this show as a cinematic masterpiece.
Powder?
Vi? Oh, Powder!
This moment felt so deserved. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It was perfect. For a moment, I actually thought that we might get a break from all the depressing and miserable shit, but I guess our mental well-being wasn't in the best interest of those who wrote this thing because, well, as you know, it would only get fucking worse. Oh wow, what a great episode. Now what the fuck do you mean I have to wait 7 days for the next one? Forget everything I said about binge watching and processing, I could not function as a human being for the next 7 days. Like this was the point where it hit me, you know, the realization of how amazing this show actually is. I couldn't believe it. The urge to download the leak line were now stronger than ever before. If only I hadn't caught myself checking out some of the voice lines between the champions, I may have actually done it.
Here comes the punchline.
Ugh. However, there was still one more act to go and I wasn't fully convinced by the show's ability to keep up its consistency all the way till the end. With only 3 episodes remaining, they would have to make every frame count unless if they wanted to rush this thing to the ground or leave it hanging in a cliffhanger for who knows how long. That would freaking suck.
I knew it was a mistake trusting you.
You've been a real picnic yourself.
Man, this dynamic was so much fun. I know everybody loves the ship because they're both hot and badass, but this whole thing comes off the back of moments that are generally just entertaining and important to the plot, you know? It's not just them being cute.
My hero.
Alright, that's it. I'm starting a violent Twitter account where I can post a bunch of shitty fan cams with obnoxious music and over-the-top transitions and effects. You know, the ones that go like... Echo, the boy savior, was easily the coolest character in the show by far. Not only did he have a sick hoverboard, but he was also the leader of the Firelights and could actually rewind time with his clock thingy. Too bad he couldn't use it to give himself more screen time, because he definitely could have used some. With that being said, let's quickly talk about my least favorite character of the show. Now, when I said that there's no unique takes in this video, I may have not been completely honest with you guys, considering that I really did not like Mel. Or maybe I should say not care, if that's a better way to describe. Okay. I don't know, maybe it was because she just seemed very manipulative towards Chase that initially kinda bothered me. That was until they started to tell her own backstory, which was cool, but also felt very disconnected from our main plot. It's easy to shit on Chase, but I actually really enjoyed his character arc. Meanwhile, Mel never really got involved with the rest of our cast. At least, not directly. There was like a look that she exchanged with Vi at one point, which felt almost weird for them to even be in the same space. But that just goes to show how good these characters were. Like, there was not a single one that I genuinely disliked or despised at all, even when it felt like they were there to do just that. Fucking Finn had way too much drip to be dropped after like 5 minutes of total screen time. Although he was starting to piss me off a little bit. Wait, what's happening right now? Is this? Oh no, I feel like this is probably going to be the first corny scene of the show. Like, this is going to feel out of place, isn't it? Guys, I don't know about this one. No, actually, what the fuck's about to happen? I still don't understand how this is even humanly possible. Like, is this what it looks like when animators and artists have actual control over the work that they put in? Because it certainly looks like it. But we just had Jinx committing another mass murder while humming to the same songs he was singing at the beginning, and now we have this shit while Denzel Curry's popping off in the background. I don't get it. I don't understand how it works so well. And then the rewind back to the present is just the cherry on top. Just one of those things where all you can do is just watch and wonder what it would be like to have any artistic skills or talent of your own. I don't want to ruin the moment, but as sad as it is for these two to be against each other, I think the main takeaway from this moment should be how Jinx was ready to just die. Like, she was done, which unfortunately makes sense and was probably overlooked due to the fact that she can't really die, can she? At least not yet. I saw that one piece of concept art and I can't say it made me feel too great.
Jinx.
Yup. Still not feeling it. The moment I was convinced that there was going to be a second season was when a completely new character made an entrance halfway through this episode, and that obviously happened to be Mel's mother, Miss Medarda. the leader of something in somewhere, I don't know. She could snap me in half for all I care. There was also the long-awaited moment between Caitlyn and Vi that would set the internet on fire after years of anticipation by the fans. We had the rain, a little bit of tension, just about the perfect scene for an intimate moment between these two.
Do yourself a favor, Cupcake. Go back to that big, shiny house of yours and just forget me, okay?
Wait, guys, I think there must have been some sort of a mistake. I can't seem to find a moment where these two got together in the first place. What are they doing? It's been like 48 hours since you guys met. I think they're practically in love at this point, so I don't understand why they're being so dramatic all of a sudden. You know what? I'm not even going to question it. Unless if these creators have a death wish or something, they should know that it's far too late to back out now. Anyways, in the midst of all this drama, Victor manages to cure himself to an extent and finally outruns the boats in a scene that was quite powerful. Actually, I kinda hate that I know what he will eventually become. Not because I don't like it, but because the moment I saw this was the most confusing thing I had seen since the previous scene. How could he become even more attractive than he already was? God damn. Sure, he may have accidentally killed a person in the process too, but luckily for him, she was the least developed character in the entire show. Like, there are quite a few characters who are only around for a short while yet still manage to be interesting and memorable in their own right. Sky was not one of them. No, after she evaporated, I was honestly kinda amused by just how emotional the aftermath was. Poor Victor probably had to brush her asses off of the floor with a broomstick or something. We conclude the 8th episode with a very special fighting scene because it's the first time where we can see Jace and Vi not only working together but also using their weapons, which was absolutely crazy to me. This scene where Vi first gets her gauntlets was honestly one of my favorites. I don't know why, it was just so satisfying how they managed to make them feel like they complete her and are special. This could have happened way earlier in the show, but they decided to do it in the second last episode and I absolutely loved that. Anyways, after I had mentally recovered from yet another amazing fighting scene, I realized that my worst nightmare was about to become reality. We were not about to get any closer on these storylines, were we? With only 45 minutes remaining, there was no way. I actually kinda ruined this last episode for myself because the only thing that I was waiting for was the climax. Sorry, Jace. As much as I'd love to see Vi beat her ass, there was no time for that. We have to keep it moving. I mean, to his credit, the guy actually grows a spine and does more than any of his colleagues have done in decades to fix their issues with the Undercity and comes up with a possible solution in order to bring peace to Piltover by arranging a meeting with a certain somebody. Did you see that? That was the only normal transition of the show. I'm not even kidding. Almost every other transition is some sort of a smooth or seamless cut that catches you off guard every time. Or they won't even register in your head because they're so slick with it. You could honestly make an entire compilation just about these transitions alone. They're so good. Okay, so if I had to pick my favorite moment of the entire show, it would have to be this one right here. The rematch between Vi and Sevika. The final showdown that had everything you could ask for in a badass fighting scene. First of all, it had fantastic music as per usual, some humorous moments between all the action and the chaos before going back to throwing pool tables and some sort of laser heat waves across the room, and it even had the cliche mentor talks to our hero from beyond the grave as they're about to lose, and it somehow wasn't horrible. Actually kinda fucking sad, if I'm gonna be honest. Add all the beautiful colors to it and you have yourself a scene that is incredibly hard to forget. And to think that this is only the glimpse on how the fight scenes could look in the future. There's still so much to be seen with these tools and characters, it's insane. It just keeps getting crazier and crazier. How the fuck did Jinx manage to kidnap like 3 whole people without anybody noticing? Alright, so the moment we've all been waiting for. The slightly awkward and overdue family get-together hosted by Jinx. Now, what's important to understand here is that all of this is basically the byproduct of one huge misunderstanding, so for her to gather everyone together to have a conversation about the situation is actually a really good initiative towards a solution. Unfortunately, all of that flew straight out the window as soon as she brought out the fucking platter.
I know that ain't who I think it is. sheesh. I'm not that crazy.
Oh man, I can't wait for Vi to have a complete mental breakdown in the next season. Like, she's going to need mad professional help after this one. And Jinx needs some sort of...
Shut up! We're talking.
I don't even know anymore. My dumbass really thought that there was still some sort of a chance for things to turn out alright, even after she asked Vi to just casually murder Caitlyn. I mean, to my defense, she looked really cute while doing so, and I know for a fact that I wasn't the only one who thought of that. She is the main reason she gets away with half of this shit, is because she looks so pretty and innocent, while making us look like a bunch of fucking clowns. Speaking of clowns, Caitlyn should apply herself a job at a circus for pulling the stupidest stunts you could think of in the worst possible moments. I mean, I can respect it, you know, trying to arrest Jinx out of all people in a proper way, but you know she's batshit, right? Like, for a split second, I'm pretty sure you can literally see the homophobia in her eyes. Okay, enough with the shitty jokes. This ending sequence was some of the most visually captivating stuff I've ever seen. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but just look at this shit. They keep doing something new and capturing these chaotic moments with pinpoint perfect shots and effects that make people like me feel most good about myself, because I think there's an alternative universe where I could pull off something like this if I wasn't a lazy piece of shit and actually followed my dreams. When those shots from Jinx rang out, it felt like someone had just snapped me out of some sort of hypnosis or something. I was just so immersed.
No, I'm sorry.
You know what? Kinda glad that he's dead. But also kinda sad that he's gone. I mean, Silco was the perfect bad guy for the show, and the tragedy of Jinx losing yet another father figure doesn't exactly make this scene fun. Seeing the look in her eyes just change in that moment felt a little bit too real for my taste. Who's even at fault here? Like, who's to blame for all of this? Is it Silco? Vi? Milo? Jinx herself? That would be the easy answer, I guess, but it's far more complicated than that. Which is what makes everything about this so beautiful, is how you can understand every character's motives and actions, but you can never understand the actions of the writers who thought that it was okay to leave us in the nastiest fucking cliffhanger imaginable. What is wrong with you? The fact that she shot the rocket as her all, I think, is too goddamn fitting. For the first time in my life, I was actually jealous, but also kinda happy for those who had been playing League of Legends. Congratulations! All these years of mental torment and addiction has finally been paid off generously. I mean, what is there even to say? It hurts. This ending still hurts just as much as it did back in November, and I'm afraid that it's not going to get any easier, at least not until we get some sort of confirmation about... Oh no, wait. That's right. It took them a day. A whole 24 hours to officially announce the second season after the finale. That was actually fucking hilarious from them. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this thing was made by the single person who runs their social media accounts for the sake of their own mental health, considering that it was only like 3 voice lines and a sound effect. After I finished the show, I took some time to reflect on it and just see what other people thought about it, and I guess I didn't even realize how special it truly was until then. Like, this thing has been and will be studied both visually and in terms of writing for years to come, just because it's so different. It's almost like Fortise has unlocked this new pathway to something so special that we don't even know its potential. I cannot wait until we get a proper trailer for the second season. If anyone associated with the show somehow sees this, congrats, thanks, and fuck you. And for those who are just waiting for the next act to drop in who knows when, just hang in there. The new Spider-Verse movie is just around the corner, so at least we have it. Oh no, wait. Fuck. And for those concerned, no, I have not installed the League client yet. I just went to YouTube to watch all the dope-ass cinematics in the hopes that would somehow help me cope with it all, but no. Instead, I was left feeling scared once I realized that we barely touched the surface of what this universe could apparently offer. So instead I made this, my first video about a TV series, which was a bit different. I never actually thought I'd ever make one, but here we are, I guess. Trying to think if there's anything else that Oh fuck. I forgot to talk about Heimerdinger.